What's up, Mavs fans? If you haven't heard about Anchor yet, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, and it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today.
Hey, this is Dirk Nowitzki, and you're listening to the Mavs Step Back podcast.
I like this, TK. I like that. Yeah, it's the Mavericks, all about action. Don't do no acting, no Samuel Jackson. Dirk get the ball, you know that it's magic. Post move deadly, yeah, get tragic. Luke with the ball, yeah, get nasty. He'll drop 30, don't gotta ask him.
Luka with the step back three. Oh, yeah! Three-pointer, yes, sir. Taking the three after the pump fake, and it's money for Porzingis.
Now you got my boy Chris Stabs, looking like Duncan Nash in the gap. They just want a ring, wanna fill the gap on your team head. I ain't talking hats, dang, go relax, still at the champ. Defense still coming with the cannabis flow. The massive.
All right, everybody, welcome into another edition of the Mavs Step Back podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Trigg. I'm joined as always by my co-host and Sports Illustrated Dallas basketball colleague, Matt Galatson. We're not in the greatest of moods tonight, and I mean, I'm sure that goes for pretty much all of Mavs Nation out there. You know, the Mavs suffered their worst loss of the season, and it's not even close, to the New York Knicks, who came into this game 1-7. You know, just one of the worst teams in the league so far. They didn't have Dennis Smith Jr. They didn't have Elfrid Payton. They didn't have Mitchell Robinson in this game. But Marcus Morris Sr. went off for 29 points, 9 rebounds. The Knicks shot 50% from three for the game. They out-rebounded the Mavs 56-47. It was one of those games where every time the Mavs started to get something going, they just couldn't get over the hump. You know, there was a point where the Mavs were up 90-87, and so that means they got outscored 19-12 over the last, 3 minutes of the game or so. So it was bad all around. It doesn't make you feel good at all. Even, coming off of that Orlando 1-point win on Wednesday, we weren't feeling too great about that. And I mean, it's early season and we don't want to overreact too much, but it's just a fact that it was a bad loss. Matt?
Yeah, I mean, why are we sitting here like Dennis Smith and Mitchell Robinson and who else did you say, Elfrid Payton? Yeah. I mean, like those are big, huge losses that nobody can would have made a huge difference in this game.
Well, Mitchell Mavericks, Robinson was, in my opinion, because
but even if all three of them were playing, the Mavericks should have won by 20 points.
Well, not according to you.
Even with all even with all of them playing, the Mavericks are still the better team.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, when they play shitty, they're a bottom 5 team in the NBA. When they play shitty teams, they've been playing down to their competition, and the majority of that blame falls on Rick Carlisle.
Yeah,
this team has no lineup consistency. Jalen Brunson's playing 16 minutes here. He's starting 2 games ago or whatever it was, and now he's playing 16 minutes. Justin Jackson's playing 8 minutes. Seth Curry, the best shooter on the team by far, is playing 13 minutes. You claim that you're going to be hands-off with everything, which is fine, but then when a team actually needs a coach in the bottom, 30 seconds of the game, when you get a rebound off of a missed free throw and you have a chance to tie the game, I get that it's Luka Doncic, but you can't take a step-back 3 from mid-court with 20 seconds left on the clock and expect that to go in. I mean, that's a bad shot. That's a horrible shot. And that's why they're losing these games, is because they're losing this game and coming up, just high enough in these other games to win, like against Orlando and against Washington, and they pulled away against Cleveland. Is it's consistent bad decision making, it's consistent sloppy play, and that all falls on Rick.
Yeah. Well, I'm not blaming. Look, that was a bad shot by Luka at the end, but I mean, I'm not blaming. I'm not putting this loss on him. Like you said, it has to fall on Rick. I mean,
100%.
I don't. Here, the thing with me, I don't understand. I'm wondering why he hasn't chosen to experiment with Luka, Seth Curry, DeLon Wright, KP, and Dwight Powell, or Maxey. Dwight Powell or Maxey. But, you know, one of those starting five line, I don't know why he hasn't tried that out yet. It's not
because he has to start his guys. He always has to start his guys.
And see, what's frustrating to me is he kind of said before the season that, you know, the lineups would be like this and they might change from game to game. You can't build consistency that way, though. I mean, you have to have some form of consistency, and maybe the Mavs roster just isn't good enough to where they can have a set lineup from night to night. But my thinking is players like DeLon Wright and Seth Curry, those aren't matchup guys. To me, those two guys are just good players. So I don't think, you know, their playing time should be determined by, you know, which team the Mavs are playing on a certain night. I think they should be playing regardless. And to me, it just kind of feels like, I don't know. It's like the Knicks have so many big guys, so Rick decided to, you know, go away from some of his smaller guys. I mean, I really don't know what the thinking is behind it, but it is really frustrating, and I'm sure he'll take, you know, responsibility for it, just like he has in the past. But I just don't know what taking responsibility for it does if you're not willing to change, you know, what you're doing. You know what I mean?
It doesn't do anything to fix it at whatsoever.
And I mean, like I said at the beginning, I don't want to harp on it too much. And people listening, I mean, you have to understand this is, you know, we had some people say we were too harsh after that Orlando win, but I mean,
obviously not.
I mean, you know, Matt, he said on the last pod that he was very concerned coming into this Knicks game, given how the Mavs played against Orlando, and as it turned out, I mean, he was right about that. And I mean, we don't want to overreact too much because, again, it's the 8th game into the season. These guys are still trying to, you know, build some chemistry, playing together and everything. But like we've talked about so far in this one, I mean, that starts with Rick. He's got to do something different, and he's got to stick with it. And I mean, I don't know. They had a stretch of games where they were playing really, really good, starting with that Denver game, and then they played well against the Lakers, and they had a really good stretch of games there where they had the same starting lineup for 3-4 games, and I don't think that's a coincidence, even though it's not our preferred starting lineup. So I don't know, that it's frustrating. I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, Carlisle has a tendency to be hard-headed, but I'm not going to say that I know more than him because I obviously don't. He knows what he's doing. He's a good coach. He's just hard-headed sometimes. And I mean, I still have faith that he's going to figure it out. You know, he's going to do what he needs to do, but it's just frustrating right now, especially since it's the Knicks and, you know, given their record, and it was KP's first game versus his old team. It's just a lot of emotions at once, and it was just a really, really bad loss. But, you know, just looking past the loss itself and just looking at the box score there, the Mavs bench, which has been, I mean, there's a lot of reasons for a bad loss, and one of those reasons is the Mavs bench just didn't have it tonight. They had been saving the starters' slow starts all season long, but tonight, I mean, they just didn't have it. You know, Tim Hardaway Jr., he had the most points off the bench with 14, but he was 5 of 15, took a lot of bad shots. Kleba had 8 and 5, but, you know, Brunson, he was only 1 of 4, had 3 points. DeLon Wright.
Dwight Powell had one shot. He took one field goal attempt.
Yeah, and like we were talking about before we jumped on here, obviously that can't happen. But there were a lot of times where they wanted to get him the ball, and they couldn't because the Knicks were playing the role so well. So you got to give them some credit there, but I mean it is very frustrating when you're not able to throw those lobs.
Let me interject this though. If that's the case and they're playing the role, then that means things should be open more on the perimeter, correct?
Correct.
So then why the is Seth Curry playing 13 minutes? If they're playing the role so hard and keeping you from getting into the lane, then Seth Curry, your best perimeter shooter, should be playing more than 13 minutes. He didn't have a field goal attempt. Right.
I saw it, and then I saw Tim Cato. He tweeted about it, but I saw it too. But, at the end of the game, Cato tweeted, Luka gave a very confused look at the bench when Carlisle subbed out Seth Curry at the end. And, I mean,
as well he should
I
have.
was thinking it. Everybody else was thinking it too. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know why he's not playing more minutes. I can't answer that.
Here's a stat for you. Tim Hardaway Jr. had more three-point attempts than Seth Curry, Jalen Brunson, and Maxi Kleber combined. He had more three-point attempts than Kristaps Porzingis, and he shot 30%.
Yeah, it's not great. But, I mean that's Tim Hardaway too. I mean, you give him that many shots, that's more than likely what you're going to get. And, there was one point that really stuck out to me. I believe it was in the third quarter. The Mavs had gone down by 11, and it was right before they made it close again heading into the fourth. But they came out of that timeout down 11, and you'd think that, maybe you put Seth in here to get a offensive spark or something, but they come out of the timeout and they run a set play for Tim Hardaway Jr., and it's a clanked three from the top of the key. And at that point, you're just thinking like, okay, it's just not going to happen tonight. And sure enough, I mean, that's what ended up being the case. But I remember I was texting you towards the end, and I was like, and you know how all of you guys listening, and including Matt, especially Matt, y'all all know how optimistic I am about the Mavs. And, I usually don't waver on my hope very often, but late in that game, at a certain point, I think Frank Ntilikina hit a three, and there was still like 3 minutes, 30 seconds left. And Matt, I sent you a message. I was like, I hate to be this guy, but it's over. I mean, you just got the feel that they just didn't have it tonight. And again, we're kind of working through our feelings here. We're in our feelings, but that's what happens when you have such a disheartening loss like this. And the Mavs, they dropped to 5-3, and they get right back at it tomorrow night. I guess that's the only good thing about this. We don't have long to think about it, Matt. They get right.
Well, yeah, but like, I mean, who's to say that they're not going to lose back to back because they just lost to the Knicks?
Well, I mean, and that might happen, but if they come out tomorrow, and I said this too before we got on here, that's another. I guess if you want to point out a positive, the Grizzlies played tonight too. So both teams are playing coming off of a back-to-back. I don't think that happens very often. So that's one thing going for them. If they come out tomorrow night and they get a win, we don't remember this very often, and then we'll start looking forward to that Knicks game.
Well, I don't think KP's going to play tomorrow night.
And he might not.
Do you?
He might not. I mean, they said they were going to do some load management stuff. I don't expect him to play tomorrow night, but I still think the team can do enough against a Grizzly team to get a win. And I mean, maybe I'm just being overly optimistic, saying that, but I think it's possible. And if they do, we won't be near as down in the dumps as we are right now. But now we look forward, or after that game, we'll look forward to the, KP's return to Madison Square Garden next week on Thursday night. And, given what we saw tonight, if the Mavs are playing, if they play like that against the Knicks at home, I don't know. I don't know what to think about the Mavs going to New York next week. I guess I feel a little bit better because it's like this weird thing where the Mavs are road warriors now. They can't lose on the road, but they're just not that great at home. And, that's kind of odd. What are your thoughts on why that is?
Actually, I got nothing. It doesn't make sense. They were one of the worst road teams in the NBA the last 2 years, and they've been good on the road in the early goings this season.
The Mavs are the only undefeated team on the road in the entire NBA, so they've got that going for them. If KP sits, that's a pretty big blow, but as bad as the bench played tonight, they'd be kind of due for a bounce back game, and we'd also probably see a lot more Boban. And, as effective as he is, I don't know that that'd be a bad thing. So
I have a thought on that. If he's not going to play against a team that puts 4 big guys on the floor at the same time, then when is he going to play?
Again, that's
just another Rick Carlisle thing.
I was about to say, again, it's another head scratcher because I don't know. I really don't know.
Do you ever wonder what dads talk about amongst each other? Are you curious to hear from some of your favorite celebrities about fatherhood? From the creators of The Drink Champs, each week, DJ Effin, KGB, and Manny Digital spend time exchanging thoughts, sharing their experiences, and leaning on one another in hopes of not screwing up being good dads. They're oftentimes joined by guests in hip-hop to lend their perspective on parenting while sharing how they also manage successful careers in the music business. Listen to Fatherhoods, that's Father space Hoods with an S, every Tuesday on Spotify or wherever else you listen to your podcasts.
I know that one bright spot we can look at tonight, though, is, Luka just continues to shred people. His final...
Yeah, but he had...
No buts. I'm going to say this.
He had 8 turnovers. And he took a really bad shot at the end of the game.
All right, let's try this again. Luka is continuing to shred people. He finished with a career-high 38 points. He was 50% from the field, even though he only hit 3 of 11 from 3. He was 13 of 26 from the field. 14 rebounds, 10 assists in 35 minutes. Again, 38, 14, and 10 on 50% shooting in 35 minutes. And yes, he had 8 turnovers. But, he's not the reason they lost that game, though. He was obviously the best player on the floor. And
obviously. Yeah.
And just seeing him put up these kind of 35 minutes and he put that up, and it really doesn't, he does it so quietly too. Like, I knew he was getting close to 40 points, but then you look and see the 14 rebounds, and it's just like, whoa. Especially when the Knicks have all those big guys, and the Mavs were out rebounded by 9 rebounds, and then Luka's out there going with getting 14 of them. So that's really impressive. He's just, I don't know who can stop him this season. Even if the Mavs,
the Knicks,
they didn't stop him though. They beat the Mavs, but they can't stop Luka. Nobody can.
I know, but it's what it is it's an indictment on Rick Carlisle. It's an indictment on the rest of the roster they put together. When your 2-star players are putting up those kinds of numbers, and you're losing to the Knicks. And what was the final score? 106 to 1. You're putting up 102 points. That's
and see, look here,
inexcusable.
we did this so quickly after the game that I haven't had time to, look at all the post-game quotes and, what Rick Carlisle was asked after the game. But, another thing is, like, he chose to start Courtney Lee, I think for the first time since Game 2 of the season. And he only played him for 5 minutes. Started him, played him 5 minutes. He went 1 of 2. Didn't get any other, stats. He just scored 2 points, 1 of 2 in 5 minutes. And then he was gone for the rest of the game. So, I mean, what's the point? Hey,
we're trying to make the playoffs, but Courtney Lee's starting.
It's hard, and I mean, I don't want.
You have to get off to good starts to win basketball games, and they haven't gotten off to good starts.
I hate having to be this
messing
harsh.
Around with this stuff.
I hate having to, feel like we're being so harsh on this. But I mean, at some point, you have to ask questions like that, because that makes zero sense whatsoever. But it was frustrating. That's the good thing about an 82-game season, though. I mean, you quickly have a chance to move on from it. But, I mean, it stings. It stings for sure. But they'll be back at it tomorrow night against the Memphis Grizzlies in Memphis. And they'll see if they can get up to 6-3 on the season. So, and then, Matt, we're going to close out on this because, like we said, Rick Carlisle, he always takes responsibility for these type of losses. And we're still waiting to, see some big changes to, address these issues. But after the game, Carlisle said that Luka's going to always have the ball in his hands in those situations, and that he trusts, Luka to do what he needs to do in those situations. And then Luka, after the game, he took responsibility too. He said, "I made a bad decision. That wasn't the shot I was looking for." And, I mean, from a 20-year-old that just put up that stat line, in that type of game and a disheartening loss, he's just as disappointed as anybody. And, I mean, it's good that he recognizes that. We've talked about his ability to adapt, during the games when his three-point shot isn't falling. He'll drive to the rim more this year. And I think that kind of stuff is going to improve as well over time, because he's still a kid and he's still learning, and I think this will be a good learning moment for him going forward.
Yeah. The only problem with what Rick said that I have is, man, you're the head coach, and it's fine that you trust your star player, but you're the head coach. You need to have some input on what's going on the floor. And frankly, I know Luka's great. Nobody's been on the Luka train longer than me. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's a top 10 player. But at a certain point, you kind of have to remember that he's 20 years old.
Oh, yeah.
So expecting him to have the right answer all the time without any sort of direction in that kind of situation is foolish.
And I mean, it's still, and like you said, his age, and it's crazy to think that he put up those kind of numbers, and really they shouldn't have even been in that situation in the first place. They should have had the ball with a lot more time left, but they gave up an offensive rebound off of R.J. Barrett's 2 missed free throws with 36 seconds left. That shaved 6 more seconds off the clock, and then Marcus Morris went to the line and made one of his 2, I believe.
But they still had plenty of time.
They did, but I mean that was a big moment in the game, because then KP fouled out, and he was playing well too on the offensive end, and it was just, I don't know, it was just one of those things. But like I said, Luka, he's so young, and to have that kind of performance tonight, and then he makes one bad mistake at the end, and obviously it's highlighted because it was huge. It could have, they could have tied the game or at least gotten within 1 and fouled again. But I mean, like I said, he's going to learn from it. There's nothing to worry about with Luka at this point. He has not only met expectations, he's exceeded them, which is unreal because the expectations, at least in my opinion, were already pretty high. So there's a lot to look forward to. The Mavs are going to hopefully continue to build the right roster around him going forward. And we've talked about it before, the whole Tim Hardaway Jr. thing, Courtney Lee, that was the tax for, getting Porzingis in that trade. It's not always going to be like this. So it's going to be frustrating at times, but, again, we're 2 games over 500. There's a chance to, get back on track tomorrow night in Memphis, and then we'll go from there. But, guys, we appreciate y'all coming in and listening to us. Hope we can, get back on track and get some more positive vibes with a Mavs win, hopefully tomorrow. So be sure to like, rate, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms. Be sure to go to our YouTube channel and subscribe there. If you do subscribe there, it automatically enters you to win 2 tickets to the Mavs game of your choice. The sooner we get to 1,000 subscribers there, the sooner we will pick a winner for that. So be sure to do that. Guys, we appreciate it. Hope you enjoy your weekend. Y'all have a good one.
A lot of times feel like I was on the road to nowhere. Tell me why all these people up in my face acting like I know them. Feeling like Luka Doncic, rookie of the year, I'm the coldest. God speaking through me every single track, prophet like Moses. Asking why I gotta wait till I'm dead to go and get my roses. Feeling like last 2019, grinding, unfocused. I used to go to bed